G'day YouTube viewer, g'day bikers. Is the Honda GB350 the best small retro? That is what I will try and answer in this review, which if you like I hope will prompt you to like and subscribe and encourage me to make more videos in this format. I already own what I regard as the best retro looking modern bike in the Kawasaki Z900RS. I love the style of bikes like that remind me of the 70s style Japanese motorcycles I remember and dreamed about owning as a teenager in Australia. The Honda GB350 has been available in Australia for 12 months now, and despite having 3 litre bikes in the garage, I couldn't resist buying one for riding hood to keep learning on and for me to ride as a leisurely roadster that gives a totally different experience to my other 6 motorcycles, including a mid-sized dual sport thumper and a classic looking 114 cubic inch retro style Harley cruiser. We'll start by talking about some differences between this and the GB350S model being released in Europe and the UK in March. The wheel size on our bike in Australia is 19 inches at the front and 18 inches at the rear, but the S model coming to Europe is 19 at the front and 17 at the rear. I think the tyres will also be different. Ours has Dunlop Aeromax GT601 tyres with a 100 section at the front and 130 section at the rear, but from what I've heard it sounds like the S model will come with Metzeler's in Europe. Again, like with all my videos, I am just a casual rider. I am no expert or professional reviewer. I'm just an average Joe Blow who enjoys riding motorcycles and regard it as my recreational passion and interest. The S model has different side panels, which I assume are also metal like this, and more black on the exhaust. I think they're all the main differences, but as always I'm happy to be corrected in the comments. So let's work from the front and talk about my view of every part of this great looking low powered machine that is not just for beginners. Despite my many decades of riding experience, I enjoy riding it just as much as Riding Hood does, and she's only just starting out her riding with gears journey. Just before working our way through the bike, some of the comments on my recent videos talk about how good it is to see so many practical and useful features that you don't see on many bikes at any price point these days. They not only include the dual channel ABS braking, switchable traction control, slip and assist clutch, LED lights all round and hard brake flash warnings, but simple things so many bikes of the 60s, 70s and 80s had that you don't see much of anymore. That includes the centre stand, helmet lock, tie-down points and grab rail, which I even had to fit to my Z1 retro-inspired Z900RS to make it look more like the original. As I mentioned, the wheel at the front has a 19-inch rim. It is cast alloy supporting tubeless tyres, and while spokes would be more authentic to the time period this bike is trying to reflect, not having to patch a tube a long way from home is going to be very convenient. The 310mm disc with a 2-pot Nissan caliper works very well. It is not overly powerful and doesn't have a lot of bite, but does everything it needs to do without locking up thanks to ABS. The front mudguard is metal, great quality and provides reasonably good protection. But if you do live in a wetter, colder climate, you might want to consider an extension to stop water, mud or road salt spraying onto the exhaust headers and engine. The inverted right way up shocks at the front are non-adjustable, but I wouldn't expect anything else on a bike of this price point. They work very well. In fact, so good I don't notice anything negative about them, which means they are perfect for this style of bike. The rear twin shocks do have preload adjustment and good travel for a roadster, and again I would say they are more than adequate on a bike you are not going to ride aggressively or fast. Working our way up to the headlights and front indicators, they are all LED, but the headlight is round like the classic bikes this machine harkens back to. The LED indicators that double as daylights are more non-traditional and very similar to those on my Honda CMX 1100 Rebel. From experience though, I can say they are very visible and work really well. Like the headlight, the dash also has a retro shape, albeit 1 gauge, not 2 like the 70s era bikes I used to ride, such as my very first road bike, a 1979 Honda CB250. But they are very effective with all the information you need, despite there being no tacho, which I don't think is a problem on this low-revving single with all the torque and peak performance down low like a Harley. The dash is also very easy to read and see what speed you're doing, gear you're in, and how much fuel you have left. The handlebars are wide, comfortable, well positioned and give you good control. The rear view mirrors, with their reflective mirror-style rears, look amazing from the front looking back at the bike and provide you excellent vision behind with virtually no vibration from the well-balanced, refined and smooth single-cylinder engine. You also see very little of your arms, and the switchgear seems and feels good quality. The grips are relatively narrow and feel a little on the small side, but I am planning to put some brown grip puppies on this bike to match the seat. I wouldn't say the steering is sharp or quick, but is really well balanced, so the bike turns and handles really well, despite having a 19-inch front tyre rather than a 17. The bigger wheel adds to the 70s style feel, look and vibe of this bike. The GB350 has great fuel economy of 2.5 litres per 100 kilometres or 38 kilometres per litre. And with its great-looking traditional-style 15-litre tank, the motorcycle boasts an excellent range of potentially up to, wait for it, 600 kilometres or 370 miles between fill-ups. Now, I am going to put that to the test, and I will do that in a separate video. This roadster features a tubular-style cradle frame, fitting of a bike reflecting the era this one does. Now we have a 348cc long-stroke single-cylinder air-cooled motor with 2 valves, which boasts almost 21 horsepower at just over 5,000 RPMs and 29 Newton-meters of torque peaking at 3,000. So the GB350 emphasises character and charm over performance. I would describe it as a willing motor, but not fast or high-revving in any way. While talking about the motor, we have to mention the chrome exhaust, which looks very similar to some of the road bikes I rode in the 80s, but sounds better than most, apart from maybe some of the 4x4 bikes of the late 70s and early 80s that I just loved hearing, and some of the classic potato Harley sounds of that era. But this one has something those don't. At idle, it is very quiet and won't upset your neighbours at 5 o'clock in the morning, but as soon as you tweak the throttle in any way at all, magic happens. And this bike sounds way better than any machine with a standard exhaust should. I love it just as much as I do the sound of my 4-cylinder Z900 RS. The seat is slightly firm in the best way because it is extremely comfortable and I could sit on it all day, which you nearly can without stopping because of that long fuel range. At 800mm high, it is also very easy for anyone to flat foot with both feet on the ground. The only slight problem is your feet drop right at the foot pegs. Fortunately, the bike, that still feels very roomy, is low enough and narrow enough to still make it easy to flat foot at a stoplight. And with regard to the riding position, your feet are directly below your knees, making for really comfortable ergonomics. Your arms also feel really relaxed, not low or high, and you don't feel like you're leaning too far forward. And while I haven't tried riding the bike 2-up yet, the retro style of the seat also looks practical and comfortable for a pillion. The stats are all well and good, but don't tell you how a bike feels or performs, so let's try and describe what my experience is. Again, this is my opinion. I think it is a brilliant looking and feeling bike, so long as you don't want to go fast or rev it out everywhere. If you like leisurely riding that maximises fun in a very relaxed way, there is no experience better than this small bike. I enjoy riding it just as much as I do my 1860cc Harley-Davidson Heritage Softail Classic. Very different, but at the same time very similar in the way it delivers its power and the extraordinary comfort it provides the rider. Enjoyable, smooth and relaxing would be my 3-word description of this bike. The gearbox is the smoothest I have ever experienced, and with the slip and assist clutch, the lever is the lightest I have felt and easy to pull with just one finger. The side stand is just the right length, easy to find and works very well without leaning too far or too shallow. And just like those machines it harkens back to, it has a centre stand that is simple to apply and makes tyre changes, chain adjustments and chain cleaning easy. The rear brake with a 240mm disc and single pot caliper is perfectly good for a bike of this power, size and weight. The rear 130 section tyre is not too wide or narrow. I think it's a perfect width for handling and stability, and it looks great from behind. It really suits the bike. The brake light looks very authentic for the retro styling, and I understand it or the indicators flash on and off when you're braking hard. I'm yet to put that to the test or see what it really does, but we'll report back when I have. The rear mudguard is also metal, and there is no need for a tail tidy because of the authentic, old school and yet clean looking appearance it provides. And just before I forget, one thing I haven't mentioned is the weight of this bike. It is 179 kilograms. I am around 180 centimeters and weigh around 90 kilograms, and it is easy. I need to mention this toe and heel shifter. So you can see the heel part here, the toe shifter here. What I find while riding it is you can just use the toe shifter to go up and down, and there's not a problem. Sometimes my heel does bump this, but it doesn't seem to change the gears. I have heard it is possible to accidentally do that though. So this is something we're thinking about, whether we replace it with just a toe shifter or whether we keep this. At this stage, probably going to leave it like it is. Another thing I just noticed is a little cover here on the clutch lever, just protecting it from soil and that getting in there. With traction control, we change that by pressing this button here, switch it on and off. And this is the button you push to control your LED screen, which features your gear position, your fuel gauge, trips. So before I talk more about what it feels like to ride this bike and why I think it will be a big seller in the UK and Europe, just as it has in India, Japan and Australia and many parts of Asia, we need to talk about quality and price. The first thing I did when I got the bike home was read the manual. Usually that takes me hours. This one only took minutes. I thought about that and realised it must be a reflection of how confident Honda is in the quality and likely longevity of this made-in-Japan motorcycle. I will still be very careful not to lug the motor or rev the engine too high while running it in, while continuously going up and down the gearbox during the first 1,000 kilometres or 600 miles. In answering the question of how does this bike make me feel while riding, free, with the ability to take in my surroundings in a way I can't on any other machine. It's not intimidating in any way, yet totally engaging, because to really experience it, you have to work that smooth gearbox and keep changing the gears. Do that and you will get the most out of it. It handles well, brakes well, and has wonderful ergonomics that just lend themselves to a relaxed ride, while at the same time being enormous fun. Riding Hood and I are already fighting over who gets the next ride, but in the end she will always win. It was her early Christmas present this year, and it is her bike to keep learning on. I like it so much I am considering going back and making an offer on the second one at the dealership, which looks great in pearl white. Then we can each ride a Honda GB350 at the same time. What do you think? Are you tempted to buy one, or do you already have one? If so, what has your experience been? Are we still in the honeymoon period of ownership, or is this just a great little bike anyone can enjoy riding at any time, at any age, and never grow tired of? Would love to hear what you think. Now, I'd like to conclude this video by answering two final questions. Is it good value for money? Yes. The price is very competitive with other bikes of this size, style and capacity, and the fit and finish is just as good as anything on the market. And the other question I'd like to finish on is it the best small retro? For Riding Hood and I, yes. We looked and researched extensively over a 12-month period, but everyone has their own taste and requirements, and for you that may be different. There are so many good motorcycles that are worth considering. And one thing I would like to finish on and emphasize with a bike of around 20 horsepower is don't expect to go on a motorway, a freeway, a highway or a fast road and be able to quickly overtake people. It is a bike for smaller, slower roads. And if you do need to accelerate quickly to get yourself out of trouble, you will need to change down one or two gears to get the power you need. And even then, the pickup is not going to be quick. So if you are going to buy a motorcycle like this, you do need to be careful and conscious of its limitations. Apart from that, I can't recommend it highly enough or pick any faults on a bike that costs $7,900 in Australia, very comparatively priced with the Royal Enfield 350s. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, or let me know why if you didn't. Hope you're having a great festive season, and best wishes for all your motorcycle viewing or riding in 2025. Look out for my next alert if you are a subscriber, and I look forward to you joining me in the next one.